Hey guys, welcome to Tabletop Never Stop. Today we're going to talk about the newest FAQ and new game mode that's been announced. But before we do that, do yourself and me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Don't know if you've noticed, but there's been quite a bit of stuff getting announced for Song of Ice and Fire, and that'll probably keep on happening. I made a video yesterday. The way things are going right now, I might make a video tomorrow, so you don't want to miss it. All right, let's get right into this. So we have an additional game mode that's been added called Fire and Blood. You know, in a lot of ways pretty simple, but also a pretty exciting game mode. Has huge deployment areas. Both players will deploy in 18-inch bands, and set up the rule that terrain has to be placed 6 inches away from the deployment zones has been removed, which is obvious because if they didn't do that, there would be nowhere to put terrain. And then after you've deployed everyone, you take turns putting, and after everyone's been deployed, you and your opponent take turns selecting your enemy combat units and placing objective tokens on them. So then getting into special rules, when your commander unit activates, you may select one enemy combat unit that's within long range of him and place one victory point token on that unit. And then getting back to the units that you and your opponent marked, whenever any of those marked units kill something, they get a +1 additional victory point, but they're worth 2 victory points when destroyed. This is really just free-for-all, but with a little bit of targeting specific units. Interesting little metagame that'll be happening, because of course you want to pick units that are easy to kill, but then of course your opponent might not even bring them up, so you won't get to get them. Alternatively, if you picked a powerful unit, you know, the opponent's going to want to use it, so you'll probably get to kill it eventually, but you're also feeding the opponent points as he kills stuff with the unit that you've marked. This is also a little bit of a nerf on NCU commanders, because of course they won't be able to get the benefit of activating, which is probably fine because of course NCU commanders are pretty good already. But missing out on, I guess that's 6 potential victory points from not having a commander on the board could be pretty rough. Also, obviously, want to protect your commander a little more than you already do, just because you wouldn't want to risk losing that ability to claim points. But all in all, this is of course a really simple game. Don't really need to talk about it that much, but at the same time, pretty exciting stuff. I think it'll play really fast, which may be one of my bigger complaints about the game right now. It just feels like, of course, there's a lot of setup too because the armies are so big. But then, playing the game sometimes can feel like it's dragging on when you combine the two together. Also, I travel a lot to play, so like there's you go somewhere, you set up, and then I spent already 3 hours sometimes before we really start rolling dice, getting ready to play the game. So anything that speeds that up can will help me out. So that's Fire and Blood. I'm pretty stoked for it. I can't wait to get a game in. Hopefully I'll get one in this week, actually. Okay, so let's look at the FAQ. I'm not going to read this line by line or anything. Basically, just going to talk about the new things and the free folk. FAQs are actually pretty great, pretty useful, and any changes are marked in blue, which is a nice feature, although it's a little hard. It doesn't stand out that well in my opinion. It's a pretty dark blue they use. But the first change, and I didn't know this was even a thing, but does Hodor automatically trigger the first time the unit is charged, or can you choose when to use it? And so when you look at the card, it does kind of imply, it doesn't say may when charged, it just says when successfully charged. But the answer is yes, you can choose when to use it. So cool. Someone definitely, I think whoever brought this to their attention was in the right. Rules is written that it sounds like that's how it works, but that's a good answer. That's certainly not how they intended it, so that's cool. All right, and then Night's Watch has some questions about Take the Black, which of course is a very powerful ability. Some interesting restrictions on it. So if an attachment with a once per game effect has already been used, can I use that effect again? No. Certainly, well, you just wouldn't take that attachment, but it does, limit the power. Can I take an attachment from a unit that was previously destroyed or otherwise somehow removed from the unit? No, attachment must have been on the unit when it was destroyed. If the attachment was killed in a previous round turn, then it would not be selected by Take the Black. That seems pretty clear. I'm trying to think of when this could really apply, and I'm thinking of stuff like Theon. All right, let's get on to the Free Folk FAQ, which I actually don't know if this just came out, but I haven't seen it, so I'm going to talk about it. And also, these are a lot of this stuff we're seeing over and over again on the Facebook groups, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. I know it bothers some people, and the same question gets asked over and over again. But to me, that's what the Facebook groups are for. But, here's some definitive answers. Can a unit lose in the insignificant ability? And if they do, are they then worth victory points? Yes. Insignificant is not an innate ability and can be lost, canceled by other effects, making the unit worth victory points until the ability is restored. So this one kind of surprised me. But again, rules is written. It's not a innate ability, so it can be removed, but it does hurt the free folk quite a bit. There's not that many ability removals in the game, but there's a few of them. And the last thing the free folk need is for their cheap, one-hit kill units to suddenly not be insignificant. So bad news for the free folk, but not exactly game-changing. Free folk trappers. Can I trigger the hidden traps order when a unit moves into long range, or can I only trigger if the unit begins the move in long range? And yes, the unit has to begin the move in long range. That's still a pretty huge amount of space. If it was just moving in the long range, then I think that that fear that we saw at first, that you could just get 12 trappers and just dominate the board with them. I think then that might be a little bit more true, but yeah, also had been answered already, so that was not really new. We got some Savage Giant questions. Does the Mighty Swing attack deal more wounds starting off, or more as they suffer wounds? So I think this is a confusion about the 5 on the card. People thought that was that's the wound count, not the number of wounds it has, right? So that's where this comes from. And yeah, it deals +1 for each wound the giant has suffered, meaning they get more deadly as they reach near death. So I know people have been arguing about that one, but so that's settled. And then finally, if the giant's Mighty Swing gains more attack dice, does it generate more than 1 hit and deal additional D3 wounds? No. Regardless of the number of dice rolled, if you have a success, then you move on to dealing the D3 wounds automatically. So there's no way to rig giants to make them deal 15 wounds in 1 hit or anything like that. And then on to some tactics cards. Some of these surprised me, some of them didn't. Regroup and reform. I guess some people were confused if the additional 2 wounds for controlling movement, if it meant you could remove additional wounds, but no, those last 2 wounds are free. You don't have to remove other units to get those heals. And then Mass Raiders cards actually turned out to be a little less good than I thought. Now, these 2 questions are basically the same. Does the last part of Wild Diplomacy, placing the condition token, only happen if your opponent claims one of the chosen zones? And the answer is yes. So your opponent has to choose a negative effect for the condition token to come into play. And that's also true with predictable maneuvers. The condition token does not trigger unless your opponent decides to activate that unit. So I didn't know that. That's not how I read the card, but cool. Now we know. Don't feel like the free folk needed their cards to get worse, which of course they didn't get worse. This is how they were always supposed to be, just human error. But they got worse for me. And finally, we have a new errata to Varys. Varys has lost a part of his card that lets him re-roll if he fails the roll, which definitely weakens him, probably for the good, right? It's still a 66% chance to cancel either the NCU or the spot on the tactics board, so it's still very powerful. You just can't really guarantee you can stop it anymore, which I think is good all in all. So here's how the card used to look, and here's how it would look now. I think Varys is probably still worth bringing. I think still on the rule of averages, you'll be blocking 3 spots on the tactics board per game. That's 3 free attacks or 3 free flanking maneuvers that you're stopping. So, sure he's nerfed a little bit, but it's probably for the best. All right, so that was the Fire and Blood game mode, as well as a quick look at the FAQ. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.